Thanks for watching us on Hilaal Live. My name is Lukman Shadrack from our Cape Town studios, keeping you company until about 6 p.m. inshallah. And as we do every Wednesday, from 5:30 to 6 o'clock, we have our legal slot. And back in the hot seat after Eid and being away for a little while, I'd like to welcome back Brother Yusuf Khan Dalwai. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam, Lukman, to you and your viewers, and thank you for having me again.
My absolute pleasure. And this is where you're also going to be, hopefully, for the next couple of weeks on our legal slot, educating our viewers with various aspects on the legal, challenges that we find and face in our country. So, Jazakallah so much for affording us your time. Advocate Yusuf Khan Dalwai. Yusuf, with regards to today's topic, which is of grave importance, and even following up from what Fadwa says with regards to the assistance that's out there for some of our community, because a lot of people, when we are in debt, we tend to be in denial, quite a bit of the time. And I'm speaking from experience because I was in this industry for a little while as well. But let's start with the basics. So what do creditors do when you fall into arrears with your debt?
Okay, so creditors are usually deemed as vultures and monsters by the consumers. They get sworn at, they get, all types of vulgarity takes place because that's a very sensitive issue. Now, there's two aspects to creditors when it comes to collections. One is the soft collections and one is the hard collections. Right. So when your phone start buzzing with all these call center follow-ups, when are you going to be making a payment? When are you going to be settling your account? Why are you late with your installment? Those are all the soft collections. And a lot of people, they are on the go most of the time.
Right.
And they're driving, or they're at work, or they're a little bit under pressure. The phone rings, they answer, and they don't think things through when committing to a call center agent by saying, okay, at the end of the month, I will pay 2,000 Rand, for example. End of the month comes and you can't afford it. And then the phone starts again. Right. And that goes on their system. All the commitments that you've made, during the course of the soft collection period, in terms of your outstanding debt or your arrears with your account. So it's important when you receive these calls to firstly be cautious that it's not a fake caller.
That's also very important.
Yeah, because a lot of scamming going around, and you need to ensure that you know who is calling you, and the information that you're providing them, it's private information, like your ID numbers, your date of birth, your phone number, your email address. So you need to be certain, and comfortable that the caller of the call center is, it relates to your account.
Okay.
And you will know, I mean, if you know you've missed a payment and the very next day you're getting a call, I think you'll have an idea.
Of course. But at the same breath, I mean, it's also vital to realize not to give out too much information over telephone.
That's correct. Yes.
Without ensuring that the correct company is calling you.
If you're not comfortable by making any sort of arrangement on the phone, sometimes people are under pressure, consumers are under pressure, and they just commit to whatever amount. Okay, make it 500 Rand, make it 300 Rand, make it 5,000 Rand, just to get rid of the call, because they are nagging and they are persistent. And that is where I say all the vulgar comes in, the language that comes from the consumers after that call, or even before that call, and sometimes during that call.
Okay.
So that is the soft collections. Then we go to the hard collections. After the soft collections, after you've missed your commitment to that very same call that you've promised the 500 Rand on the 25th, and it now comes the 1st of the following month, you're making another promise, and then the 15th another promise, and they are gonna say to you that, look, you've committed and you're not paying accordingly. We're going to take legal action, and then obviously from there onwards, the harder collection comes in, and then you get issued with a letter of demand.
Ooh. And that's now one of those dreaded letters that nobody wants to get. But what happens is collection companies are running a business as well, and they have an obligation to collect that money. So what happens when you get a letter of demand. Take us through that process.
This particular letter of demand is a special one. It's called a Section 129 letter of demand. 129 means a section of 129 in the National Credit Act. A creditor should first, before taking civil action against a debtor, first send out a letter of demand in terms of Section 129 to ask the debtor to first pay up the debt within the first period of time, or pay up the arrears within the period of time, or offer the option of making an arrangement, or going to see a debt counselor, or going to an ombudsman, giving the consumer those options, right? And giving them 10 days or 14 days to do so, and notify the creditor they've not done so. They're either going to pay up or go see a ombudsman or a debt counselor, or make an arrangement, or communicate with the attorneys, or at least.
So they give the consumer sufficient time in order for them to try and resolve that matter as well. So what happens in the event that the company has been trying to get hold of the consumer, they've tried everything, and now that the consumer hasn't gotten back to them, so which means they've ignored that correspondence. What happens?
So what would happen is that letter of demand would be sent out via registered post.
Okay.
So you'll get a little slip from the postman, asking you to please come and collect a letter at the post office, at your nearest post office.
Okay.
And should you fail to go and collect that letter within a period of time, that letter gets returned to the attorney or the agent or the debt collector, right, or the creditor. Now that return is proof enough and sufficient enough that a letter has gone out, but the consumer or the debtor has not made the effort to go and collect the letter.
All right.
So sometimes they do send it via email, or most times they send it via email, but it's important for proof of service in that respect to send it out via registered post.
Mail. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you don't go and collect it, perhaps you've moved to another residence or another area or another province for that matter. It's your duty as a consumer or a debtor to inform the creditor within a certain specified period of time that your domicile has changed. In other words, your place of residence has changed, and you've got to inform them that this is your new address. If you don't inform them, then your last address that you've given the creditor as a domicile will be deemed to be your current address.
I see. Yeah. Okay. So then the next step is you pick up this letter, which means you've received it, and you still ignore it. Okay. And don't get back to the company, for example. What does the company then do?
Yeah, that letter is extremely important. Once you've received that, our viewers or any debtor or consumer should not take it for granted. It's an ordinary letter.
Okay.
That letter is sent to you for a purpose, right? The creditors are not concerned whether you responded to the letter or not.
Okay.
The creditor's duty or what is motivating them is that they want to take civil action against you and to recover the outstanding amount, but they have to comply with the National Credit Act by sending out this letter. So if you don't respond, they're actually not concerned because they're ready to take action, legal action against you.
And that legal action is called?
That is the summons proceedings.
Okay, so that's where the summons comes in.
That's correct, yeah.
All right.
But in order to issue a summons, there must be proof that that letter has gone out in terms of the Section 129.
Okay, so then the summons gets issued. And then what is the recourse that the consumer has and the company has?
Yeah, so once you've received a letter of demand, you may comply with that by seeing a debt counselor, ombudsman, or making an arrangement.
Okay, you still have the opportunity.
Before the summons, right?
Okay, before the summons.
That's when you receive the letter.
Right.
If you ignore that, you're going to miss that opportunity to pen or stop legal action, right? So now you haven't done that. Now the creditor is in a position to now issue summons against you to recover the debt, albeit secured or unsecured debt.
Okay.
Right. So The summons would be a combined summons in the magistrates court, regional court, or in the high court. Okay. It really depends on the jurisdiction and the amount that the creditor is trying to recover from you. Right. So you'll receive a summons by way of a sheriff knocking on your door and serving you with a summons. Right. It doesn't require personal service where you need to be present. Any responsible person that's at home who opens the door may receive it on your behalf, and at some instances it just get affixed to the door or the gate of your premises after a few attempts, and there's sufficient proof that you are residing there and perhaps trying to evade or dodge the sheriff,
of course.
So once a summons is served, and then obviously the legal action now commence. So in the summons, there will be a particulars of claim, setting out the grounds for the summons and what the claim is, and the cause of action and the amount in their prayers, right? In terms of what they would like to recover from you, together with interest and legal cost and all these additional,
even the cost of telephone calls and things like that.
Okay, that's slightly different. But they will recover legal cost on a different tariff.
Okay.
Right.
All right. So we're going to take an ad break. When we come back, we chat a bit more to Yusuf Khan Dalwai about this very important topic about our debt. And if we find ourselves in hot water by ignoring some of the collection companies and creditors, you may find yourself in hot water, and we're trying to prevent that. So I hope that you are following the very valuable advice. After the break, we chat a bit more to Yusuf. You are still watching Hilaal Live. Assalamu alaikum. Thanks for watching us on Hilaal Live. And tonight on our legal slot, we chatted about debt and what happens when the creditors come knocking on your door. What are some of the legal recourses you have, and the legal recourses that the creditors have as well? And in studio, joining us, Yusuf Khan Dalwai. Jazakallah so much once again, Brother Yusuf.
Thank you.
So before the break, we chatted about that dreaded summons that one gets when we ignore some of the correspondence from our creditors. But what happens when we ignore that summons? What is the recourse from the company, the creditors, and what actions can we take as a consumer?
Yes, it's important for our viewers and debtors and consumers to understand that the summons is not something to ignore. Okay, because now things has become rather serious. Okay, because you are going to be dragged to court. Okay, and your financial obligation towards the creditor is going to be put before the court.
Absolutely.
Okay, and the court is going to decide. Now, if you've received a summons, you have 10 days to notify the attorneys and the court that you will be defending the summons.
Okay.
Now, let's say you have a defense why you are not paying your debt. For example, you haven't obtained the loan. It's maybe prescribed, or you are not the person that was the applicant to the loan. Whatever your defense may be, you need to inform the court that you're going to defend this action, and then within 20 days file your defense, which is called a plea.
Okay.
Right, and then the normal legal process will take place, and the course of the action itself will take place. Now, a lot of people ignore the summons, and then what they actually do then is they call the attorneys. They call the attorneys and say, I received the summons, can I now make a commitment? Yes, the attorneys are with pleasure going to agree to that, because that is what they want you to do.
Right.
And they wanted you to do that in the first instance. That is why you received the summons. But don't be fooled by that niceness, in respect of you are now given an opportunity to make a payment. You still have legal action pending before a court, right? So you need to inform make sure that when you're making a commitment, you're going to try and enter into some sort of settlement agreement, right? Whereby you're going to commit to a certain amount on a monthly basis, weekly basis, and have that agreement then signed.
Okay. So in the past, they used to have something called a garnishing order.
Yes.
where the court then instructs the company you work for to actually take a certain amount off your salary.
Yes.
Does that still happen?
It still happens. Emoluments, attachments, garnishee. Those are all the remedies that a plaintiff or creditor has to recover the amount. So if you don't defend the summons, then the creditor has an opportunity to apply for default judgment against your name.
So once you've made a commitment, you need to keep to that. If you
Stick
don't,
to it,
then it goes towards that extent.
Yeah. Some creditors or some attorneys
will still be a bit
lenient. They're still lenient. All they want is, you to pay and, try to the best of your ability. But once things go wrong, once you stop paying, then all they do is they pull out the summons out of the shelf again and continue with the legal action. Right? And that gets you into trouble.
Okay, so there is an opportunity for you to go through and actually try and sort this out. But if you ignore it, you're going to be in hot water. You're going to face the music in court.
That's correct.
Okay. A lot of the time, creditors do get a bad rep with regards to trying to manipulate the system or manipulate the client as well. Do you find there's still a lot out there, or are they regulated to a certain code of conduct?
No, they definitely regulated to a certain code of conduct. That would be attorneys and debt collectors.
Right.
Okay. So, for example, they're not allowed to call you up until a certain time or before a certain time or on a certain day. That's quite regulated.
Okay.
Right. So, and obviously the calls are recorded. Commonly now, calls are recorded. So you are in a position to, at any time, request the recordings of that call if the person on the other side of the phone has tried to manipulate you or misrepresented certain information or even misled you to believe something which is not true. If you come to discover that thereafter, and I mean, you will be in a position to take that up with the authorities.
And that falls under the NCR Act, right? Or the NCR regulation?
Yes. Okay.
It's not an act, or is that
the National Credit Act?
Okay, it is an act.
There's a National Credit Act that regulates how collections is done.
And so what happens if I feel I've been manipulated, I have an issue with the agents that called me or the company that has called me, they're not keeping up to their end, they've taken more money from my account. Do I have any recourse? Do I have any action that I can take?
Yes, if they've taken more money from your account than what you've agreed, then you can go to your bank and ask for a reversal of that debit order.
All right.
Right. If your bank has that facilities, usually most banks do, where you are able to reverse that debit order. If it's a stop order, it's a bit different, a little bit more technical. But you can approach the creditor and write to the creditor or the creditor's representative, the legal representative, to remedy what you feel that you are being, how you have been prejudiced in that respect.
Okay. So once all of this is done, right, I've now cleared my name, I've paid my debt, but there's still, I would imagine, my name as a bad creditor or a bad debtor with regards to the consumer industry. How do I then clear my name off that?
Okay. Firstly, if you haven't defended the summons and you haven't paid anything, the creditor will get judgment against your name, right? So that will go on your ITC report.
Right.
The attorneys will inform the credit bureaus and there'll be a judgment on your name. So the moment you pull a report from a credit bureau, then you will see the judgment, case number, which court, which amount, everything. Now those are aspects that affects your credit rating, right? For example, your scoring and your credit worthiness in the credit industry. Right? It affects it. Now, let's say you've paid up your debt for that judgment that you've that the creditor obtained. That judgment is on your name for 30 years.
Sure.
Right? Until you've paid it up.
That's a long time.
That's a long time. Now, if you go and pay it up, then you get a paid up letter.
Okay.
Then you're in a position to approach the court to have that judgment rescinded.
Okay.
Then you get a new court order to say, and that states that the judgment of that case is now rescinded. And that order then goes to the credit bureaus and it gets uploaded on the system and your status change. Automatically your credit worthiness in the credit market improves.
Yeah. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean you can go and ring up a whole lot of new bills.
Yes,
you need
yes.
to be vigilant in how you're
And
going to go
that
about
is
handling
what
your.
usually motivate people to go and clear these markings, judgments, defaults on the ITC report, is because they're probably wanting to obtain a loan of sort, right? Whether it's a home loan, vehicle finance, because it was now declined, and now they need to remedy that.
Yeah.
That is usually what motivates consumers to go and clear it up.
So, I mean, quite a lot of people have made a business out of this, of collecting debt, because our country went through still going through a terrible recession. We had lots of people lose their jobs due to COVID, and companies that are closing down. But there are, some people that are clawing back into their credit score. What advice do you have for our consumers out there with regards to this pertinent topic?
Yeah, look, if you are employed and you've managed to obtain a loan from a creditor, and you're now no longer in a position to pay for whatever reason, whether you had a reduction in your salary or you're unemployed now, it's best to approach the creditor.
Okay.
Right? And ask for some relief and give them evidence, enough sufficient evidence for them to consider the merits of your situation in order to reduce your installment. There's also a thing called debt counseling, administration, the ombudsman, if there's an issue in dispute. So utilize the resources. Okay, don't just leave it at that. Because every time you default in a payment, it gets noted on the ITC. And it's 6 months down the line, or even 12 months down the line, you apply for credit when things are okay again. They'll pick up 6 months ago or 2 months you haven't paid your vehicle installments.
Yeah.
Right, for example. Now, this topic is extremely important.
Absolutely.
Especially to homeowners, because you don't want to lose your home or your vehicle, because that's your mode of transport to your
income that you create for yourself and your family.
That's correct.
Okay. So that's the one thing you must be guarded against, and hopefully keep that, because that's a roof over your head, and it's definitely transport to you for you to get you an income.
Yes, having credit management, manage your finances nicely. If you can't, if you feel you're a bit reckless, get someone to assist you, your bookkeeper, your accountant, a debt counselor, an attorney, or anybody, even your sister or brother that's a little bit more in that advanced and savvy in that way. Get assistance so that it can be managed.
Yusuf, Jazakallah so much for coming into studio. I think it's a great topic. Thanks for encouraging us to be a bit more vigilant with regards to our debt, but for the great advice that you've given our viewers.
Thank you very much, and that is absolutely a pleasure for myself.
So we'll see you next Wednesday, inshallah, with another topic on our legal slot. Have a great evening. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
And that's Yusuf Khan Dalwai chatting to us on our legal slot with regards to some of the amazing advice that he's given our viewers, myself included as well. And that's all that we have for you from our Cape Town studios. On behalf of Sohail Barnes and myself, Luqman Shadrack, have a wonderful evening. Assalamu alaikum.